Hi, I'm Kate, the Sales and Marketing Manager of Tasman Venture in beautiful Hervey Bay. I'm so excited to be supporting your business venture with this course, Tourism and Travel Distribution Channels. Travel and booking trends are ever changing, so it's more important than ever to make sure that your business is best placed within the market for maximum potential and growth. I grew up within the tourism industry with my parents dedicating the past 31 years to their business, so I know what it's like to hit the ground running in tourism. It takes time and money to build your business, and growth can be really challenging. But distribution is one of the key ways you can achieve that growth. It helps you reach new customers and helps new customers find you. So that's where I want to support you, to help you understand what distribution is, to find the right distribution channels for your business and all the things that go along with that. Pricing, negotiating, and ongoing evaluation so that you can get the results that you need for your business. We're covering a fair amount in this course, so don't stress. By the time that we're through, you'll know everything you need to know about distribution channels and how you can make them work for you. Well, there's no time like the present. Let's dive in. First things first, what is distribution? Put simply, distribution channels cover any method you use to reach your customers or how they might find you. There are two categories, direct distribution and indirect distribution. Direct distribution channels gives you direct contact with your customers. We're talking about your website, social media, advertising, email marketing, and so on. Indirect distribution goes through a third party, and this is really common in the travel industry. We're talking travel agents, online third-party booking sites like Expedia, wholesalers, accommodation providers, car rentals, tour operators, and visitor information centres. Different distribution channels reach different markets, which means increased exposure. But it also takes a bit of extra thought and time. Like, how do these channels differ from each other? Or who are you trying to reach? Perhaps you're wondering where to start. Don't worry, that's what I'm here for. So, first things first, let's talk about your marketing. There are 4 P's to marketing: product, promotion, price, and placement. But guess what? Placement is just another word for distribution. Ask yourself, how is your product distributed so that customers can find you? Your distribution strategy is a key part of your overall marketing and works together with the other P's. Let me give you an example from my own experience. At Tasman Venture, we previously offered 2 seasonal products, whale watching tours during winter and remote Fraser Island during the summer. But when we started working with international distributors, they told us that they wanted a year-round product for maximum potential. In other words, we got feedback from our distribution that helped us adjust our product, promotion, and pricing, and it didn't take long to see the return on investment. We now offer remote Fraser Island tours year-round. You have to pivot with your distributors, nurture your relationship with them, and be open to adapting your overall strategy. I like to reevaluate my overall marketing strategy every 3 to 6 months to make sure each component is helping to support the other and, again, staying aligned to your business objectives. Okay, so we've talked about how distribution fits into your marketing strategy and why that's so important. So let's dig into some practical info, developing a distribution strategy. Let's break it down into a few simple must-haves. You can make a note of these or even take a screenshot. These golden rules are your key to a strong distribution strategy. Number 1, you must use a variety of distribution channels. Never rely on just one. Second, you must increase exposure. Different channels target different audiences. Number 3, you must focus on getting you new bookings. You want a distributor who will introduce you to new markets, not the same market. Fourth, you must include a highly effective follow-up system to keep customers coming back for more. The experience never ends at the end of the tour. And number 5, you must help ensure you are being chosen over your competitors. Set yourself apart from your competitors. Now you might be wondering how you make these golden rules happen. There's a lot that goes into it, of course, which we'll get to, but the essential place to start is research, knowing how to find the answers that you need. The best advice that I can give you about researching is how to tell good research from bad research. Hunches, opinion pieces, and social media posts are not useful resources. You need sources that systematically collect data in an organised, official capacity. Regional, state, and national tourism organisations are a great place to start. We'll call these destination marketing organisations for the rest of this course. They're organisations which can tell you about distribution channels that are relevant to your region, which channels suit your product, and market activity information you can use to help shape your strategy. So, your regional or local tourism organisation should be your first port of call. Next, state tourism organisations. You can contact STOs directly, liaise with them through your RTO, or simply access research through their website. Finally, you have Tourism Australia. This is a national resource that has excellent research easily available just by searching online, and will help you collect useful information about national and global trends and distribution channels. You can reach out to Tourism Australia yourself or ask your STO or RTO to connect you. Finally, let's talk about networking. Affiliations are a huge part of how you build and expand your distribution channels, so it's important to align yourself with accredited affiliates and stay up to date with local industry activity like trade shows. These networks can be huge help, especially for small businesses in tourism. It's always wise to have people you can call on for help or advice. Basically, be present in the industry and align with respected partners. It'll help you find new distribution channels and opportunities. Now, over to you. Look back over the 5 distribution must-haves and use each one to evaluate your current strategy. What are its strengths and what could be improved? And download the resource attached to this lesson to get started. And remember these 3 key points. Distribution channels are the different ways you can reach your customers. These channels make up part of your overall marketing strategy, along with product, promotion, and price. And do your research. Connect with your destination marketing organisations for guidance on appropriate distribution channels and market activity. Distribution is a key part of how you reach your target markets. But if you haven't thought about distribution channels before, you might be wondering where even to begin. So this lesson is all about identifying the key stakeholders, multi-channel distribution, and how you can use market trends to identify possible channels. The first thing you need to understand about identifying distribution channels is that there are several different types, and you don't necessarily have to choose between them. In fact, an effective distribution mix can be your secret weapon in maximizing your exposure. You've got 2 main objectives here: maximizing profits and increasing your customer audience. Most tourism operators require several channels to achieve this. Your specific channel mix will depend on how much business you're generating through each channel, as well as your net return. So, what are the different types of distribution channels you might use? As I talked about in Lesson 1, Developing Distribution Strategy, there are direct and indirect distribution channels. Direct distribution is pretty straightforward. Your marketing, your website, advertising, and so on. But let's look at some key indirect distribution channels that you might want to consider for your business. First, there are retail travel agents. RTAs are based in the traveller's country of origin and are a convenient place for customers to make bookings in a face-to-face environment. Next, we have online travel agents. OTAs are like retail travel agents, but only operate online. They deal directly with consumers, allowing them to purchase tourism products online. Then, inbound tour operators. An ITO is also known as a ground operator or destination management company. By contrast to RTAs, these are based in Australia and facilitate travel bookings and payments on behalf of overseas or domestic clients. Last is wholesalers. Wholesalers have traditionally provided a link between retail travel agents and ITOs. Wholesalers may also develop their own travel packages to sell to agents or customers directly. Usually, retail travel agents link the customer with wholesalers. However, the agent may also deal directly with inbound tour operators or Australian-based products, particularly in the Asian markets. The strength of your presence in the marketplace will depend on choosing the most effective distribution channels to reach and then sell to your target markets. For a more detailed look at how to choose the right channels for your business, check out Lesson 3, Selecting a Distribution Channel. So, let's talk about your distribution mix, otherwise known as multi-channel distribution. This tends to be a really successful strategy because it allows you to be adaptable and reach more customers, particularly as technology advances and consumer preference changes. So, what are your options? First off, you can use as many channels as you like. It's just about knowing your target market, how best to reach them, and understanding the cost-benefit balance. Again, this is where good research really pays off. You can learn more about research sources in Lesson 1, Developing Distribution Strategy. It's also essential that you communicate in a consistent way, regardless of the channel, whether that's with the customers or distributors. Maintaining that quality control is how you set yourself apart. At Tasman Venture, we've taken the time to develop a really strong brand identity, and we ensure our brand identity is always communicated with new distributors. We use consistent branding across all of our marketing and distribution channels. So our distribution partners and our customers can be confident that every time they deal with us, they'll get the same great level and style of service. That's what keeps them coming back. As we talked about in Lesson 1, destination marketing organisations are good sources of trend information, and it's vital you stay up to date. So, maintaining relationships with these organisations and aligning your target markets with theirs is a really good way to build your networks while maximising industry exposure. Think about it. They've already allocated a significant amount of resources in pursuit of their target markets. So if you can leverage that marketing and trade engagement, you should. Trade shows, such as the Australian Tourism Exchange, are also a great opportunity to meet with hundreds of trade partners and build your network. They will save you both money and time. So don't be afraid to reach out. Remember, knowledge is power. Now, your turn. Start investigating distribution channels that will work for you. And lastly, remember these key points. A mix of distribution channels can give you wider reach and more exposure. Always stay up to date on key trends and technologies that might impact the effectiveness of distribution channels. Also, stay up to date with destination marketing organisations and key stakeholders. So, you've contacted the relevant destination marketing organisations, you've done your research, and you understand what distribution channels are available to you. But what's the next step? How do you decide what channels are right for your business? In this lesson, we're exploring how to select distribution channels. I'll guide you through the right questions to ask, some considerations you need to be aware of, like commissions, and how to know whether your business is international ready. When choosing distribution channels, you really need to know your product inside and out. Only then can you be sure you're asking the right questions. So, what questions do you need to ask yourself? First, how do your target markets purchase your product type? Which channels are your markets most receptive to? If you identify that social media really works for your market, use that to your advantage. Next, how would you establish a relationship with your distributors? For example, where possible, Tasman Venture likes to meet with our distributors face to face or via video chat. Phone calls and emails can be useful for record keeping or quick questions, but they lack the personal touch you can get with an actual conversation. Something to keep in mind is that distributors are not just the obvious online and retail travel agents. Remember your local distributors, such as accommodation providers. Be sure to build relationships with your local networks who share a vested interest in promoting the region in which you operate. This will increase your target audience and maximize profits. Next, you need to ask whether these proposed distributors are familiar with your product. If they are they enthusiastic? Could they be good sales ambassadors? If not, what kind of resource costs would be involved in developing that familiarity? There's money, but also things like creating new communications content. Will that require you to outsource certain skills like copywriting or graphic design? Spend some time really thinking about those small details and how you'll achieve them. Next, do they handle products provided by your direct competitors? If the answer to this question is yes, this isn't necessarily a negative thing. You're trying to identify gaps in how your clients find you. So if you team up with a distributor who specializes in your product and region, that can give you a lot of exposure. And finally, what sort of incentives can you offer a distributor to encourage sales for your product? For example, you might agree to an override commission or incentives for non-peak periods. When there are local events happening, you can capitalize on this with incentives that will promote you and maximize profits. At Tasman Venture, a strategy we use is to offer a specific package or deal for a particular distributor to encourage additional sales, exclusive only to that distributor. Here's a top tip. Before establishing a distribution deal with new partners, research how they operate and how they'll promote your product. And check how they want you to supply and update your information. Then ask, is that in line with your expectations and budget? If you don't know the answers to any of these questions, it's time to get your research skills out again and keep researching until you can answer all of them confidently. Are your products commissionable? Different trade partners and channels will charge different levels of commissions. It's also crucial to confirm and consider commission levels when selecting your distribution channel. Rates vary depending on how the channel is operated. This means that when you set up your pricing structure, you need to factor in an appropriate amount of commission depending on your partner. Keep an eye on it. Commissions can be up to 30%. For more information on commissions and pricing, check out Lesson 4, Competitive Pricing for Distribution. So, now you've selected the right distribution channels for you, but are you ready to go international? Remember that international markets are very competitive and are not necessarily suitable for every product. To succeed, you'll need an export-ready product, suitable cash flow, positive relationships with international distributors. It takes 2 to 4 years to become established in the international market, so you do need patience. International distribution channels usually contract 12 to 18 months in advance, which is why it takes some time to see sales. We know that the international market is uncertain at the moment, but don't forget this market because it will come back and you want to be ready when it does. If you think that your business is international ready, ask yourself the following questions. Is your business already well established within the domestic market? This is a great test for your developing business by working with local distributors and testing indirect markets. Now, do you have a good level of domestic distribution? And do you have a successful domestic marketing strategy? So, from here, reflect on where your business is and consider which distribution channels are right for you. If you want to dig deep, we've got these questions and more ready for you as a resource attached to this lesson. Download this to find out more. And remember these 3 messages. Understanding your target market is key to choosing the right distribution channel. Make sure you establish and maintain positive relationships with your distributors, and don't forget to factor commission into your distribution decisions and agreements. Pricing is a key part of how you market your product and engage with your distribution channels. It's so important to get your pricing structure right so that you can run a profitable business, but also stay competitive in a crowded market. So in this lesson, we're talking about strategies to help you with competitive pricing. We'll go over how to do your research, correctly price your products, and the importance of perceived value. So let's get started. One of the key factors for success in the tourism industry is how you price your product. To ensure customers purchase your product and distributors promote it, the price must be consistent, accurate, and competitive. When determining your pricing, you also need to keep some factors in mind. These include operating costs, market value, profit margins, demand, target markets, distribution network costs, also called commissions, and perceived value. Let's take a closer look at each of these factors. Firstly, operating costs. First things first, you need to at least cover your break-even point. Otherwise, you won't know whether you're making an actual profit. Keep extremely detailed reports about every expense, from wages to equipment maintenance, and refer back to them frequently. Be sure to factor in both fixed costs, things like rent and insurance, and variable costs like wages, stock, or marketing. Next is market value, another area where it's really important to do your research. What are your competitors charging? Remember, competitors don't need to be local. It's across the product type. It is important to consider your local, national, and international competitors. Balance the market value of your product with your operating costs and set reasonable profit margins. Yes, you need to make a profit, but keep in mind that today's consumers are savvy. So if you set your target margins too high and it gets passed on to the consumer, it can come back to bite you. Other factors to consider when pricing your product are demand. The demand for your product is generated by both existing and potential customers. Make sure you understand market demands and their impact on rates. Consider what can be added to your product to improve sales without sacrificing profit. Next, target markets. Firstly, determine which markets you intend to target: domestic, international, or specific regions. Then market in relation to product needs, price sensitivity, length of stay, and disposable income. Here's another top tip. Do not get stuck in the mindset that these elements don't change. If we learned anything from 2020, it's that you can't take any markets for granted, no matter how secure it seems. Prior to 2020, the market for TasmanVentures' year-round product was predominantly international, with around 70% of customers international visitors. But suddenly, international travel ceased, so that market effectively no longer existed. We needed to pivot and figure out how to make a fundamental shift in our target market, and that created a big problem for us. So we learnt that it's never a good idea to put all your eggs in one basket, even if that basket seems to be totally infallible. Next, your competitors. Find out what your competitors are charging. Competitors' pricing strategies will influence the maximum rate you can set for your product to remain competitive. As I've mentioned in previous lessons, commissions are a vital consideration. Never overlook the impact of commission rates. These rates range between approximately 10% for a local agent and up to 30% for an international distribution channel. I know 30% seems like a big chunk out of your potential revenue, but let's break it down. You pay an inbound tour operator 30% commission directly, but the ITO keeps 10% and gives 20% to a tour wholesaler. Then the tour wholesaler keeps 10% and gives the remaining 10% to the travel agent. Essentially, you're working with 3 different entities, all of whom retain a third of that commission. If you don't follow the industry standards for commissions, the distributors will not sell your product to their partners, and you will miss out on valuable sales and promotional opportunities. There's no getting around it, so you just need to plan for it. Finally, a huge piece of the pricing puzzle is value, and this is not the same as offering the lowest price. For consumers, value is about getting their money's worth, and that depends on a huge range of factors, only one of which is the actual price. The perceived value of your product is made up of your target market's expectations, their knowledge of the market, and the way you package your product. For example, consumers looking for a luxury experience will expect a high price for a product that seems worth it. In the same vein, it's not always in your best interest to undercut the market value of your product. Even if you can somehow still make a profit, if the price is too low, consumers might just wonder whether your product is inferior to your market competitors. Deciding on the right price for your product can take a bit of work, but being strategic can make a huge difference to your bottom line. Now, over to you. Review your current pricing structure. Have you carefully considered factors like your break-even point, your profit margins, and commissions obligations? What's the perceived value of your product in the market, and what steps can you take to improve perceived value? You can also download the resource and use this to review your current pricing structure. Take a minute to think about these questions, and remember, pricing your product with consistency, accuracy, and competitiveness is critical for success. Stay up to date on market activity and what your competitors are currently charging, and value is not the same thing as the lowest price. Working with distribution channels, you will end up working through a lot of different agreements and contracts. As with any legal document, you need to have a very clear understanding of the terms and conditions. If you don't, it can end up costing you a lot. In this lesson, I want to share some things to look out for when you're creating and signing agreements. And of course, to make sure that you're not getting the short end of the stick. Your distribution partner's terms may not be negotiable, but you do get a say in your terms and conditions. This is a key part of making sure that both parties benefit from the agreement. So it's really important that you've thought through your own T's and C's carefully and supplied them in full to your distribution partner. For example, at Tasman Venture, we set a minimum number of passengers to travel. If that minimum isn't met, we reserve the right to substitute the vessel or cancel the tour. Understand the conditions you need to have to protect your business, and don't be afraid to advocate for those needs. A great tip is to seek legal advice. It may cost you upfront, but it will save you a lot of money in the long run. I've attached the link to the Queensland Government's Code of Conduct for Inbound Tour Operators. This will take you through the compliance expectations. During the early stages of 2020, a number of businesses lost thousands of dollars because of the payment terms and conditions. As well as your rights, you also need to make sure you fully understand your obligations. Prior to first contact with a new distributor, do your research and know who you are dealing with, and understand if you have room for negotiations in terms of commissions and payment terms. You need to be aware that prepayments and/or deposits are not provided in most cases until the experience is completed. So this is something that you need to bear in mind for your cash flow. Remember, it is important to form and nurture relationships with your distribution partners. The best mindset when going into a new partnership or negotiating with a new partner is not getting caught up in winning or obtaining the best deal possible, but rather to think about the long-term benefits of a positive, productive, working relationship. Here are some top tips when negotiating with a new partner. Firstly, aim for a win-win outcome. Remember, there are two parties at the table. Think, what does the supplier need? What do I need? And how do we build a long-term relationship? What can you give? What information can you give to help the partner achieve their goals? Ask yourself, what is the supplier trying to accomplish? How can my clientele help meet that need? Next is negotiate beyond the rate. There is more on the table than just commission. Commission only matters if you sell, so think beyond just the rate. Negotiate everything. For example, price and co-marketing. My next tip is to build trusting relationships. Relationships last longer than deals. The personal relationships that you build with sales reps and partners is a big factor in success. Be mindful that many reps will move on to other companies and your relationship goes with them. And lastly, put it in writing. Draft a recap of your meetings within a few hours. If you wait too long, you may forget a key point. Document when you had the conversation, what was discussed, and any follow-ups. Use that information to guide future negotiations. What worked well and what could have worked better. We've touched on commissions a little bit in earlier lessons, but agreements and contracts are where commission levels really get into the nitty-gritty. Commission rates are usually fairly structured, and the terms are set for all contracts. When you set your terms and conditions, it wouldn't be smart to vary them for different customers, and it's the same thing for distribution channels. As I've mentioned in previous lessons, 30% is the normal limit for all trade partners, but in some select circumstances, this may be negotiable. Another important thing to note is that regardless of whether you're bundling your product with another supplier, your commission rates are not shared. Bundling is for consumer convenience and not a way to circumvent your commission obligations. So if you have an agreed 30% rate for distribution commissions, you must still pay your 30% separately regardless of the other supplier's rate. As we've talked about, it is really important to incorporate this within your pricing structure, not add it to your selling price. For a more detailed look at pricing, check out my lesson, Competitive Pricing for Distribution. Over to you now. Look at your terms and conditions one by one and evaluate them. Are they clear? Do they appropriately and reasonably protect your interests? If not, how can you achieve that? Don't forget to follow the link below this lesson to review the Queensland Government Code of Conduct. And here are 3 takeaway messages to remember. Contract terms and agreements with distribution channels should be clear about your obligations as well as your rights. Always maintain a positive working relationship with distribution channels. And even if your product is bundled with another supplier, you cannot split the cost of your distribution commission. Signing on the dotted line with your ideal distribution channels might seem like an end goal, but it's really just the beginning. I've said it before and I'll say it again. A good distribution strategy is an adaptable one. To optimize your returns, you need to be constantly reviewing and adjusting to suit your business and the surrounding markets. So this lesson is all about adjusting your distribution strategy as and when needed. We'll talk about how you can keep track of emerging markets and give you an analytical tool you can use to reevaluate your processes as often as needed. We've also got a handy checklist for you, an easy way to make sure you keep track of all those essential considerations. Ready to dig in? The first thing I want to address is keeping up to date with key market trends and emerging markets. Emerging markets refers to new markets that are starting to show interest in selling a region or country. This may come around due to a range of reasons. For example, a new flight itinerary, such as the opening of the international airport in the Sunshine Coast, or just an increased interest of travellers to a destination. For us at Tasman Venture, the USA was a new emerging market for our remote Fraser Island experience in 2018 and 19. This market was identified through research conducted by our destination marketing organisations, and then participating in the 2019 Australian Marketplace Trade event in the USA to connect directly with distribution partners. As a result, not only did we gain direct interest from between 20 to 25 prospective new distribution agents, but our products in turn and our business gained awareness to be added to suggested itineraries as a destination. To make sure you're staying abreast of these trends, take advantage of all of the tools you have at your disposal. Use all of these, especially Tourism Australia and Tourism Events Queensland, and other upskilling tools such as the QTIC courses. It's also a great idea to have a simple process that you can replicate for reviewing and evaluating your channels. Not just keeping data, but actually writing out its implications for your business. It sounds complicated, but it's relatively straightforward. All you have to remember is SWOT: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. For each channel, make a document with those 4 headings, then fill it out. For strengths, explore the channel's current strongest benefits. Has it captured a large segment of the market? Does it bring in a particularly healthy profit margin for you? How is it benefiting you and why? Do the same for weaknesses. Where could its performance be improved? Are there any steps you can take to overcome those challenges? Do its weaknesses overshadow its strengths? Under opportunities, think about the potential the distribution channel has to offer. Does it appeal to an expanding market? Is it a good networking opportunity for you? And for threats, list any potential negative impacts on the channel itself, or that the channel might have on your business. Is there anything that could threaten the health of your relationship with them or hurt your business because of your affiliation with them? By considering these 4 angles, you'll get a comprehensive overview of how the channel is performing and a basis for how you might need to adjust your strategy if needed. In addition, you can use a checklist to make sure your evaluation covers everything you need it to. Not sure where to start? Don't worry. We've designed a checklist for you. All you need to do is make a copy and tick each item off. The list covers 3 key points: marketing and communication, pricing, and stakeholder management. To find out more, download the checklist after you finish watching. On the topic of stakeholders, managing your relationships is absolutely crucial in this industry. You need to consistently nurture your network connections so you can solve problems, find new opportunities, and continue to grow. Take us as an example. We had high sales from one distribution channel, but after they upgraded their website, our sales actually dropped. So we went to their website as a consumer and discovered our products weren't accessible on their new website. Working with them, we were able to resolve the issue without drama, and our sales also returned to normal. So, Work with your distributors closely and build this relationship. It can really pay off. Now, we're reaching the end of our journey into distribution channels. I know I've thrown a lot of information at you, so take some time to absorb it all and, of course, use the activities and downloadable resources to help set you up for success. But before we say goodbye, I want to take a second to pass on some really important advice. Embrace familiarization opportunities. Be proactive in making sure your distribution partners understand and love your product as much as you do. Let them experience it firsthand so they can sell or promote with confidence. There's nothing more powerful than a distribution channel becoming a genuine brand ambassador for you and your business. So, once again, I want to throw it to you. Download the evaluation checklist attached to this lesson and use it to do a deep dive into your strategy. Evaluate your channels for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. If you keep learning and reevaluating your distribution strategy, it'll only go from strength to strength. And don't forget these key tips. Use the tools at your disposal to identify emerging markets. Use a SWOT analysis to keep a running evaluation of how distribution channels are performing. And working closely with your distribution channel can really pay off. Thank you so much for joining me. It's been my absolute pleasure to guide you through the world of distribution channels, a sometimes complex but always crucial part of keeping your business healthy and getting market exposure. I hope I've helped you gain some confidence to get stuck in and discover how distribution channels can benefit you.